Hello everyone, welcome to the YouTube channel James Tech Scope. In this episode of Windows Server 2025 Knowledge Sharing, we will cover a very practical topic that is commonly used in daily IT operations, file sharing and NTFS permissions. In this video, I will start from the basics and show you how to use everyone sharing and how to properly configure sharing permissions together with NTFS permissions in real scenarios. I will also demonstrate multi-user access testing and how to clear Windows credentials to solve account switching issues. These are important foundations for learning enterprise file servers and permission management. If you are interested in Windows Server network management or IT operations, feel free to subscribe and give a like. Let's get started. Shared files allow client users to access the content of Windows Server 2025 through a local network. Since Windows Server 2025 has different users, some users have read permission, some have modify and write, and some have full control. Users with full control are administrators. NTFS permissions have been fully supported since Windows XP. NTFS permissions include full control, modify, read and execute, list folder contents, read, write, and special permissions. For example, if a newly created folder does not have read permission in NTFS, even if file sharing has read permission, users still cannot write when accessing it. Therefore, both read and write permissions must be set the same in file sharing and NTFS to avoid unexpected issues. This video covers everyone file sharing and NTFS permission settings, and deleting Windows credentials. Before starting the demonstration, make sure VMware Workstation Pro is set to host-only mode so that Windows Server 2025 and Windows 11 are on the same network. The IP address of Windows Server 2025 is 192.168.0.1. and Windows 11 is 192.168.0.10. Users need to manually create Tom and Peter. These basic steps were covered in previous videos, so they will not be shown again, as they are preparation for the following lessons. Here is a simple list file sharing method, which is everyone file sharing. This is also a permission built into the system by default, and it can be manually removed. On the C drive of Windows Server 2025, create a new folder named File Sharing. Right-click it. Click Properties. Click Sharing. Click Advanced Sharing. Select Share this folder. Click Permissions. Select Everyone. Choose Full Control. Click OK. Click OK. And click Close. Switch to Windows 11. Open this PC and enter the IP address of Windows Server 2025 in the address bar. You will see the shared folder File Sharing. After opening it, you can create files, modify files, and even delete files freely. If you are not in a local network environment, you can connect two computers with a network cable to transfer files at high speed. This is a simple lead file sharing method and also a free and practical solution without the need to purchase an expensive USB data transfer cable. Everyone file sharing is suitable for scenarios with a small number of computers. If there are many computers, you need to create multiple users in Windows Server 2025 and clearly define which users have read permission and which users have modify and write permission. Before starting, there are two things to note. The first is to remove everyone file sharing, and the second is to disable inheritance. There are also four steps. First, set NTFS permissions. Second, set sharing. Third, create subfiles. Fourth, log in users and tasks. The first issue is to remove everyone file sharing, because if it exists, any user who logged in can freely read and delete shared files, making it meaningless to create other users. So you should remove everyone file sharing and only allow specific users to access it. The second issue is that after creating a new folder, you must disable inheritance. Why is this necessary? When a new folder is created, its subfiles will inherit permissions from the parent folder. This makes it difficult to assign precise permissions to different subfiles within the same folder. For example, Tom has read permission and can open the folder file sharing, but it does not mean he can open all subfiles inside it. Another example, Peter has modified and read permissions in the file sharing folder. Some subfiles can be modified and written by Peter while others cannot. This is the result of disable inheritance. Step 1. Set NTFS permissions. Go to the C drive of Windows Server 2025 and move the mouse to the folder File Sharing. Right-click it. Click Properties. Click Security. Click Advanced. And click Disable Inheritance. You will be asked to choose a method. The first option is convert inherited permissions into explicit permissions on this object. Clicking it will not remove users, but will cancel some inheritance relationships with administrators. The second option is remove all inherited permissions from this object. Clicking it will remove all users except administrators. Choose the second option and click Remove all inherited permissions from this object to reassign permissions to specific users. After disable inheritance, the next step is to assign read permission to Tom and modify and write permissions to Peter. Click Add. Then click Select a principal. First assign permissions to Tom. Enter the user Tom. Click Check Names to confirm the user exists. If the computer name and user information appear, it means the user exists. Click OK. Select Read and Execute. List folder contents and read. These are all required and cannot work separately. When one is selected, the related options will be selected automatically. After confirming, click OK. Click Add again. Enter user Peter. Click Check Names to confirm the user exists. Then click OK. Select Modify and Write will be selected automatically. Modify and Write cannot work separately, and they require read-related permissions. After confirming, click OK. Next, make sure administrators have full control. Otherwise, technicians cannot create files or shares on the local machine. Click Edit. Select Administrators. Check Full Control and click OK. Step 2. Set Sharing. Click Sharing. Then click Advanced Sharing. Select Share this folder and click Permissions. Select Everyone and click Remove. Then add users Tom and Peter one by one. Assign read to Tom and change to Peter. Here is an important note. Change permission cannot work alone when you select change. Read will be selected automatically because read is required for change. Click OK. Click OK. And click Close to exit this window. Step 3. Create subfiles. Open the folder File Sharing and create text files test1 and test2. After creating them, edit the content and save. Give Tom read permission for test1 and give Peter modify and write permissions for test1. Move the mouse to test1. Right-click. Click Properties. Click Security. And click Advanced. Both Tom and Peter inherit permissions from administrators. Click Disable Inheritance. Then click the first option, Convert Inherited Permissions into Explicit Permissions on this object to remove the inheritance relationship without manually deleting and re-adding users. Click OK. Then click OK to exit the test1 settings window. Finally, remove read permission for Tom on test2 and remove modify and write permissions for Peter on test2. This is not difficult. Just repeat the steps above and remove Tom and Peter. These steps are used to verify whether the permissions work correctly when users log in. After completing the sharing and NTFS permission settings, switch to Windows 11. In this PC, enter the IP address of Windows Server 2025 192.168.0.1 in the address bar. A prompt will appear asking for username and password. Remember not to select Remember my credentials, otherwise it will be difficult to switch users the next time you log in. First, test Tom with read permission, then test Peter with modify and write permission. If you enter the IP address of Windows Server 2025 in the address bar of Windows 11 and select Remember My Credentials, it will be difficult to switch user accounts after restarting Windows 11. Do not worry, there is no need to use third-party software to delete Windows credentials. In Windows 11, open Control Panel. Click User Accounts. Click Credential Manager. And click Manage Windows Credentials. At this point, you will see the login IP address information. Click to expand it, and it will display the previously used username and password. Click Remove to delete it. In addition to not selecting Remember My Credentials when logging in, you also need to restart Windows 11 when switching user accounts. That is all for this episode of Windows Server 2025 Knowledge Sharing. I hope it is helpful to you. If you like this kind of technical teaching, remember to subscribe to the channel James Tech School. And you are also welcome to give a like to support. If there are any topics you want to learn, you can leave a comment in the comment section to tell me. We will see you in the next video.